So, hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining. I think this is our fourth event, weekly events, short live events that we do on Wednesday evenings. We have already covered a couple of very important topics. We have covered TikTok, we have covered Roblox, and we have covered some generic topics about your children's online resilience. In today's session, we are going to talk about, is Instagram safe for your children? And I'm just going to slow down and start with some basic information in order for other people to join the call. I see that people are joining one by one. So very quickly, and by the way, if I'm looking on different directions because I have multiple screens here, so apologies for that in advance. As a very important disclaimer, WizeGen and us delivering these events, we always try to look into the body of evidence and literature and academic and scientific information on the topics, but by no means we want to claim that we are psychologists or experts in developmental aspects of your children, education especially. We are techies, very much interested in the topic, and we are basically reporting on our findings, uh, especially from the scientific body of evidence. Now, let's just start and dive in. So, we need to discuss some very important topics around Instagram, and we want to explain what are the myths and what are the things that parents especially get wrong about Instagram, and what are the things that they should know about this platform. Now, I'm sure the days are gone that parents would think that Instagram is just like a photo app. And obviously, this started as a photo app. And I remember when we started using Instagram, it was such a cool app. We started to share our photos there, similar to Facebook, similar to a bunch of other platforms. But very fast, Instagram became a very important social feedback system. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second. But again, it's part of like the fast development of the Meta empire and the Facebook empire and the social media sort of landscape. And Instagram played a very significant role in that. Now, by a social feedback system, what I mean is that basically by the invention of likes and comments and feedbacks on what you post, basically these social media platforms managed to create a let's say feedback loop, which is very important, especially for the specific age range of, let's say, 8 to 15, 8 to 18 years of age, where the biological aspect of receiving social feedback is extremely important. And children basically rely on these feedback systems to develop a self-image and develop their self-confidence and things like that. So again, very basically, Instagram became very quickly a social feedback system. And I'll tell you the significance of these topics in the next kind of part of the discussion. But the second thing is that the recommendation engine regarding what you are exposed to and what you are engaging with in terms of content, like the reels and the explores that you basically engage with and open, and the content that you interact with, it also became like very important because of the algorithmic aspect of that, and where basically the algorithm would create like a, we call it rabbit hole, you can call it like an emphasis system and mood enhancing, mood emphasizing system, where whatever you engage with actually gets accentuated through the echo chambers of social media and especially Instagram. Another aspect of it is private messaging. So private messaging, again, social media channels, especially Instagram, are very important messaging kind of and communication kind of systems, especially for young children, young teenagers. And these are like things that parents often miss, mainly because not everything remains on these platforms. Now, Instagram, we have to just give them credit in terms of like a good system implemented in terms of controls that you can implement for your child's account, basically filtering and monitoring DMs and private messages. But platform migration is a serious problem, and through the private exchanges, usually these things happen. And that's actually where the problem begins. We have already discussed it multiple times in other events, but I will briefly touch base on that in a second. Now, the commercial environment is actually also very important. A lot of things that people see, especially young children see on Instagram, it's actually part of like the product promotion or influencer marketing sort of aspects of the social media platform, and it's blended into the same scroll. So while you are seeing organic, authentic content, you are also seeing like commercial content, and it's often actually not very easy to differentiate these types of things or these types of content. So this is also like an embedded feature of Instagram. Now, some, let's say, again, based off of studies that we have reviewed, and there are lots of interesting articles about this, and we are, by the way, more than happy to share any of the articles that we have reviewed for these events. If any of you were interested, please do reach out to us. We will share all of the findings that we have. But we want to actually now discuss what are the harmful things that potentially can happen on Instagram. Now, number one thing, according to multiple studies, is body image and basically your self kind of image based off of the content that you post and you see from others. Now, this is like the sharpest evidence by far, right? This means that appearance-focused, let's say, content creation with the use of, let's say, things such as filters and editing tools and things like that actually creates like a strong dissatisfaction overall, especially for teenagers. It used to be only for girls. Nowadays, the studies shows that boys are also being, let's say, targeted with this sort of content, especially like with bodybuilding images and things like that. That it creates in general like a very, let's say, strong body dissatisfaction and self dissatisfaction, self image, and negative self image that you and children develop on these platforms. So this is number one. The second problem that usually we see on these platforms, and this is again the second in terms of the number of occurrences, it's actually DMs, grooming, and peer pressure. Now, I explained briefly what happens basically with like these DMs, but the pattern is actually across different platforms, also in gaming, but especially on social media, it's kind of the same. Things start by like developing a bond by kudosing on something, congratulating the person on something, or basically exploiting the situation by trying to show that they have like similarities and similar hobbies or interests. And usually these things happen on the platform where adults basically pretend to be children, peers of the children, and they usually take the conversation off the platform to more private spaces, maybe Discord, maybe WhatsApp, and things like that. And this is actually where the main harm happens, particularly. And yeah, there are ways you can control this, but I think the best way is to help your children develop like a judgment and digital resilience. Another number three on the list is cyberbullying and exclusion. Very, very common, happens more on other platforms, but on Instagram it's also becoming quite common, especially with commenting. uh, it's actually very important for a specific age range, especially for teenagers. One in every five Instagram users, teenagers, report harassments and cyberbullying, which is insane. But this basically creates like a very negative environment for our children. You have to understand that these children are at the age that they are basically getting the confirmation from what they're doing and what they are basically showing to the world from their peers or from, let's say, the social setting that they are in. And in these environments, it's extremely easy for people to become less empathetic, show less empathy, show less emotional intelligence, and just basically try to either make fun of or bully people. And the body of evidence on this is actually quite strong as well. Now, number four on the list in terms of like the harms that potentially on this platform can happen is algorithmic exposure. Several studies show that we have already discussed this on TikTok, very strong there as well, but on Instagram as well. Several studies show that if you get exposed even by 8 minutes on a specific topic, the algorithm picks up on that and it actually puts you into the rabbit hole of that content. If you feel sad, you will basically be even more, let's say, in that mood after just 8 minutes of watching these videos, because it keeps coming back to you because you are engaging with this sort of content. Or if, for instance, you are thinking that your body is not in the perfect shape, the eating disorder actually happens from these kind of interactions, because the algorithm shows you more and more of the content that you are currently engaging with, and that's actually something that is very negative. And then compulsive use and then addictive behavior that especially teenagers show. It's sort of an addiction, and especially in the evenings, if that continues, several studies show sleep disruption patterns, where basically the mood of the children is getting worse, and the kind of quality of their sleep becomes even worse. And it's quite important for adults, let alone the children. But when it happens for the children, it affects them on several different fronts, especially, for instance, in their physical development. Now, with this harmful stuff that we discussed, I want to also mention, so what is basically the right question? If the wrong question is Instagram safe for my child? What is the wrong question? What is the right question? And we at the beginning of the event, we made this premise that you cannot basically, or you should not say that if Instagram is safe or not for your children. At the end of the day, your child will find a way, one way or another, to go on the platform. Some children, and in many countries, it's actually now the minimum age is 13. I think it's actually global. I'm not 100% sure for being on Instagram, but for some children, even 16 is too early, and for some, maybe 12 is good. And we are in the camp of basically the thinking that it's not about, let's say, the specific age. It's about the judgment and the potential digital resilience that the kid can develop in order for them to be able to navigate, let's say, harmful situations on any social platforms, especially on Instagram and platforms like that. So basically, instead of asking, is Instagram safe for your child, you should think if your child is ready for using Instagram. And you can basically easily understand that by taking some assessments. We have developed one assessment. It's on our website, free assessment. You can just easily, without, I think, even going on a form, you can just quickly, with a couple of clicks, see your kind of assessment of your child. But it's very important to think about, let's say, their capabilities rather than like a milestone or an age or like a specific date. I mean, what happens if your child wakes up at the age of 13 and yesterday he or she was 12 and something, and then today he or she is 13? So what is the difference, right? So you need to just think about these things in advance and start building things around that. So a child is basically ready for Instagram when they understand, let's say, the potential harms. They understand like the algorithmic kind of behaviors of these platforms. They can tell the difference between, let's say, the stranger approaching them versus their friends talking to them. They should be able to understand like what is the basic features in terms of like blocking and reporting and screenshotting and creating like a documentation if something goes wrong. And definitely they need to feel safe around you as your guardians and parents, and they need to be able to communicate with you in terms of like the potential harms that they face, and they should be able to quickly bring that to you. So this is it for today. I'm just gonna take probably one or two questions. So Emma says, my 11-year-old wants Instagram. What do I do? I think there are like several different camps about this topic. Again, if I'm not mistaken, the global age limit is considered to be 13. And this is definitely something that we recommend as well. Below 13, any social platform is probably not the best idea for your child. But that's not it only. I would say even like if your child is like, for instance, 16, or even if your child is 14, we strongly recommend that before putting, let's say, your child on any of these platforms, train them and give them the, let's say, ability and the capabilities and the skills needed for navigating online situations. There are several, let's say, tools like that. First, as a parent, you should learn about what to do in these situations, but we will strongly recommend you to, for instance, take like a look at our website. We have tons of free articles and material for you and your child to get ready at least at the basic and fundamental layer for Instagram. I hope I answered your question, Emma. I think that's it for today. Thanks a lot, guys. We will try again more and more to keep these under 15 minutes. For now, have a wonderful evening for the folks in. Thank you, Emma, of course. Have a wonderful evening for the folks in Europe, and have a great day for the folks in US. See you next week.